Good evening. As a way to better understand my temperament several years ago now, I began to view my existence as that of a 19th century myth told by the 20th century. In addition to this, I now find it necessary to add the addendum that I am a self-aware sojourner, that, despite his apparent place and time in the universe, also knows that it too was never quite real. I've become more and more convinced that life, as we know and deem it to be, is simply not real. Not in the pillow-sphere, she'll never love you sort of way, or in the mask-wearing of day-to-day life, but in a much more thorough and all-encompassing way in which nothing, none of it, is actually tangible. While we comprehend much of life as some linear amalgamation of intrinsic parts, such as genetics, experiences, and impulses, I find this to be utterly lacking in explanatory power. More so, it seems to me that life is an aggregate of not only these things amounting to the self, but that the self is also, and literally, found in things that are not in any obvious way connected to it. As a kid, the concept of heaven perplexed me. It was said to be a place of immense and inconceivable happiness, but it was also known to me one could not bring any physical possessions with them. I, having found great happiness in various physical entities, could not comprehend how such a place could not only be happy, but specifically inconceivably happy, if I could not take them with me. Even identical replicas and an abundance of more and greater possessions, I thought, would not have compensated for this. There is some substantial and fervent bond between a human and the external world. In a very real way, I have become ingrained and intertwined with much of my surroundings and the things in my life. This is also true vice versa, to varying degrees of significance. What is of critical importance to me may not even acknowledge my existence, and what I am of critical importance to may be something I abhor. A tarnished tin can or worn-out and broken watch has more value to me than several decades' worth of income, and is not tradable for it in even speculative form. Mind you, the physical possession itself is not necessarily what is important to me, nor any monetary value associated with it. There is something else there, something often indescribable, that bonds me to it. The fact that this can be, and often is, extremely lopsided, is precisely what makes it indescribable. One cardboard box may be thrown out with a sigh of relief that it's finally gone, while another that's nearly identical to it in function and design may stay with me for weeks and linger for longer after that. In Western thought, physicality itself is of vital importance. Notre Dame and the Mace of the Royal Society are important to us not only because they are grand, or because they are intricate, or because they are imbued with precious materials, but because of whom and when they are of. All else is secondary. It took a lot of effort through the Abrahamic religions to knock the idea of exclusive physicality out of people. Often, the further back in time you go, the more physical and literal in form deities and spiritual phenomenon become. This millennia-old pressure has ultimately led many to a complete forfeiting of the physical. We have gone from our God being abstract in concept to our landscape and lineage being abstract in concept. everything can be replaced. Nay, it ought to be replaced in favor of the new. It's not real anyway, after all. Only the idea of it is. Other such extreme beliefs exist as well, such as that, somehow, the man who actually impregnated a woman is not a factor in the child's creation or fathering, and that you can, through sheer force of imagination, become anything, so long as others don't disapprove. However, I don't believe that those who came before us actually only believed in these abstractions, but more so that these concepts were newer at the time and needed to be integrated and expanded upon. Even then, the body was of critical importance. Long, long ago now, chastity of several sorts was quintessential, and all 7 of the deadly sins, some more than others, are also very much about the body and its relation to the mind and spirit. In this way, it's not that we have too much abstraction, but have forgotten our physical forms entirely, taking for granted that they simply exist in a particular way. Much of our modern predicament is based on this lack of wholeness. The average person would see immense improvements if they were to even just treat their bodies like Jackson Pollock treated the canvas. In Japanese culture, the physical embodiment of something essentially does not exist. The Ise Grand Shrine, originally designed and constructed as early as 2,000 years ago, has been torn down and rebuilt in full every 20 years for the last 1,300 years. The Japanese do this with many of their structures. I first learned of this phenomenon when reading about a hotel that was famous in the 60s, attracting a lot of older visitors who had once stayed there, all of them wanting to relive this place one last time before it, too, was torn down and built anew. The basis for this appears to be in the belief that the method, the principles, and the ability to do and create a thing at all is the core of its existence, the manifestation of this merely being a monument to it. According to this way of thinking, the inability to do again what was once done in the past is the ceasing of a thing's existence, its physical embodiment only a literal interpretation of what is beloved and treasured. It's the precise opposite of the Western mind, in which the physical embodiment of a thing is what the thing actually is, the ability to recreate it being a nice trait to have, but not what the thing itself is. Each of these ways of being permit different abilities and understandings. Physicality allows for something communal, something sensational, something that, to we physical beings, is also there with us, and may have been there for a very, very long time. Conceptualization allows for the eternal existence of a thing, unable to be conquered, stolen, destroyed, or lost, as it exists outside of the physical realm. It shall outlive each of us, and the earth itself. Each iteration of man appears to exist until it disproves itself, having come to its ultimate conclusion after taking and giving all it possibly could have in this world, becoming the debris, soil, and seeds of whatever may come next, having been vanquished from this world forever, while never completely ceasing to be.